We're just starting to pick up the south end of Plage de l'Ouest. The time is 12:07, and it's June 28, 1996. As you can see in the foreground, the wetland vegetation, the enclosed ponds, these are not connected to the sea. You see a different color. There's a fair bit of bird life. We're just going to climb up to 400 feet to get a better idea of the overall scope of how they sit with each other. We're right along the backside of Plage de l'Ouest. There's a couple isolated lagoons, ponds with wetland vegetation. And we're at 400 feet, it's 12:08, and we're flying at about 70 knots. We're just starting to pick up the main lagoon area of Havre Aubert, and you can see some of the wetland vegetation in the foreground, and then the main dune complex. And then we're coming into the very large wave washover, the sand flat. There's no vegetation on it at all except for a couple isolated dunes. You can see there's one channel that extends across the washover at the south end and leads seaward, and that would be exposed or occupied by water at any storm event. As we come to the north side of the dune blowout and wave washover, you're starting to get more ephemeral or embryo dunes developing. You see the lighter sand mounds, and then you're starting to pick up the recurved ridges of the end of the dune complex. At the dune complex, there's several linear ridges in the back shore. There's a couple trails cutting perpendicular to the beach, but most of the main access road is just along the backside of the foredune. The vegetation, the darker areas in the video are the fixed vegetation and the wetland. Time is 12:10. We're just coming up on along here where some of the bag sites that were deposited in the 1970 during the cleanup. We're flying at 400. And there you see one of the large wave washovers that cuts through the dunes and the curvature of the dunes that have been following it. So it's been open for some time, but it does allow access to the beach by cleanup crews. There's a whole series, there's 3 or 4 of them, very large wave washovers that connect the lagoon to the main beach line. The backside, again, some of these old wave washovers have been closed off by new vegetation, and the sand levels are a bit higher. The relief of the dunes are probably 5 to 10 meters. There's a camp, people camp just in the back of the beach there, back of the dunes. And we're just coming up on one of the bag sites now. And in the foreground you'll pick up the edge of an island that's situated in Havre Aubert. There's much smaller cuts through the dunes here where the vehicles have cut through it. as we travel along this part, coming up towards Ile du Havre and the Tang de Sud area, where there's several of the bag sites, 1 to 5, and what you're starting to see is more fixed vegetation in the back shore, but the dune itself is much narrower. It's cut by a lot more parallel tracks, relief of 3 to 5 meters probably. It's full of loose sand, and the marum is only very dense in a few places. It's on the whole moderate to sparsely vegetated marum grass along the dune. The dune itself will have a much more severe scarp on the foreground, on the seaward side. Just coming up this part of the inlet, there used to be actually inlets that cut through here. There's an old shipwreck in the seaward side of the beach and dune complex. The dune here has 1, 2, 3 main dune ridges, fairly linear, parallel to shore, and then there's a series of cuts and blowouts by persons with vehicles. Now we're just starting to connect with the main island and the Ile du Havre Aubert, and we'll be heading towards Ile Poutier. The time is 12:14. We're just coming up on Cap Briand, and we'll just take a view looking back along the shore. There's a couple small ponds. There's an inlet that cuts through the beach to, I believe it's in Tang de Sud. And just at Cap Briand here, there's wave washover that extends into the pond here. And it's much more coarser material. There's a lag shoal just offshore. And then we're getting into bedrock again. As we come across, you see where the height of the bedrock exposures and the sand beach and the rock cliffs at the end of this cape. We're just at 300 feet, and our time is 12:15. We're just cutting across the Tang du Nord on Cap Aubert, and you see the large marina complex. We're just at 500 feet, cutting across the rock riprap and the entrance to the marina and the wharf complex. Very shallow on the east side of the marina, and then you switch back into a rocky coast. We're just cutting across up to the main, the Tombolo in the north. So we'll be going by several of the Pointe Hydrizé and several of the capes along the shore. It's 12:17, we're flying at 400 feet, and we're just cutting across the main island to join up with the northern Tombolo, or Dune du Nord. We're just coming up on Fatima, and we'll be just seeing in a few minutes. Okay, we're just going along the Plage d'Hôpital on Dune du Nord, and we've just gone by Fatima, and the very large wave washover is 12:21, and we're flying at 400 feet. we're just coming up, and there used to be several old inlets that cut through here. The dunes are up to about 15 meters elevation. The backside is more fixed vegetation, and the lower area is the wetland vegetation. And you've got partially covered marram grass along the higher dune, and there's the main fordune ridge, but there's a very irregular topography on the inner side. It's not a well-developed linear structure, but more of an intermittent dune structure. And there's some curves to it, which indicates that this was probably an area of an old inlet or washover. There you've got some ponds in the back shore with the darker water, probably fresh water. And then as we come farther towards the north, we're at 1223. We're at 350 feet and 60 knots. Picking up the backside. There's much larger dune blowouts here. They have put a substantial scarp with 15-meter relief. The access, there's an old building in there for scale. The access is along the backside. There's a couple of main tracks, but then they run right along the top of the foredune. And others are sort of ephemeral tracks. The backside, the darker green, is a more fixed vegetation in the wetland area, and then several of the old tracks have loose mobile sand in them, and it's probably got much better vegetation growth just on either side of those tracks because of the loose sand. We're coming up, we're just opposite the large beach plain over on Havre Aubert on the east side, but we're coming up on the old, looks like a bedrock outcrop or an old wreck just coming up on the main beach. The backside of the dune again, there's a substantial wetland along the backside. And there's a moderate cover of marram grass with dune blowouts with probably 5 to 10 meter relief with a loose sand apron around the base of it. And then you come to the main foredune, which is irregular in shape, up and down, with probably a relief of 10 to 15 meters. We're just getting the edge of the lagoon, Chanel de Dandan. We're just cut through that, and we're coming up on the road that cuts across Lagoon de la Grande Entrée. So we're seeing a fair bit of sort of sand waves in the lagoon right now, and there's a well-defined shoreline along the back of the dune complex. We're flying at 350 feet, and it's 1226, and we're just approaching the bridge and causeway across Lagoon de la Grande Entrée that separates it from Chanel de Dandan. The complex of dunes is probably only about half a kilometer wide here, and it's connected a bit of like a parabolic dune structure coming up now just before the main road. Time 12:26. And we're just flying over the main road now, and looks to be more parabolic dune structure. There's a second sort of the primary dune back by the road with a scarp to it, and there's a lot of blowouts, and then you get to the seaward side of the dune complex,